house by the ocean. Among all those white hot sands, where every sunrise is just for you. So come along and take my hand.
Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Welcome in. It is Connacht taking on Glasgow Warriors in the URC. We are back for another watch along. Last night, of course, we did Scarlet against Ulster, but today we are focusing on Connacht taking on Glasgow. Really excited for this one on this afternoon. We got a busy day on the channel coming up as well. We've got Leinster against Cardiff Rugby, which we'll be doing later tonight, but more on that later on. But the focus today, as I said, is Connacht against Glasgow. Welcome in. Make sure that you've liked the video as you come in. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Get involved in the comments in the chat. Let me know your thoughts on the game. Now, last night, I was on my own. It was quite sad, really. But today, I'm delighted to be joined by my good friend, Dan McFarlane from Stuck in the Scrum. Dan, how are you doing? You well?
Oh, I'm fantastic, mate. I'm really looking forward to this. I've got everything at the ready, just counting down to kickoff now.
Yeah, you got people bringing you in food. You've got everything that you need. I have to walk to the fridge to get food myself. What is going on? But there we go. Yes, I'm joined by Dan. Of course, as you can probably hear, Dan is Scottish, so I'm sure he's going to be back in the Glasgow Warriors today. We are going to look at the teams. But if we first of all, let's talk about Glasgow this season. What have you made of them over the course of the URC season? It's been an indifferent season, hasn't it, for them?
Definitely. Quite frustrating for Glasgow. I mean, and I'm not sure if it's down to the players or the coach. They seem to be one of the strongest teams in the URC, quite comfortably, but their discipline is horrible. They tend to give away a lot of stupid penalties. They can be very consistent. They can just have games fall out from nowhere. And then other times they're unplayable. I mean, they'll go and they'll be Exeter. And then other days they'd struggle to beat Zebra.
Yeah, it's an odd one, isn't it? And especially with Edinburgh doing so well this season. I mean, they've been absolutely flying and top of the URC, playing some exquisite rugby. Connacht, on the other hand, again, an indifferent season. I feel they've been very up and down throughout the season, but we were expecting a load of changes to both squads, but both squads have a fair few decent options in there. We'll go through the Connacht one first of all, and then we'll have a chat about the Glasgow one. So this is how Connacht line up this afternoon at the sports ground over in Galway. This is how they go. So Tiernan O'Halloran plays at fullback with Alex Wooten and Cathal Ford on the wings. Diarmuid Kilgallen and Sammy Arnold are in the middle alongside Tom Fow and Alex Wooten. Then at 9, we have Kieran Marmion, so keep an eye out on him. Jordan Duggan, Dave Hefner and Craig McGrath are in the front row, with Alton Delan, who of course is leaving the province at the end of the season, joined by Leva Fifita. Ewan Masterson is alongside Jared Butler and Paul Boyle in the back row. If we have a look at the Glasgow one, a very strong side. We'll run through it quickly. Ollie Smith, Sebastian Chancelier, I think that's how you say it. I hope I said that right. Kyle Stein and Sione Tupelotu in the centres. Watch Sione Tupelotu, very, very exciting player. On the wing, we have Rufus McLean, of course, Scottish international as well. Duncan Weir is playing at 10, very experienced. George Horn at 9. In the front row, we have Ollie Kebble, Fraser Brown, and Enrique Pieretto. Kieran McDonald is in the lock alongside Richie Gray, Ryan Wilson, Thomas Gordon, and Jack Dempsey, who's been pretty impressive this season as well. We'll talk about the Glasgow one, Dan. Really strong side. You surprised at the strength of that team?
Yeah. I think it gives me a little bit of an insight into who Scotland are going to field against England on Saturday. I'm looking at the players that he's released and the players that he hasn't. He's allowed Sione to come back along with a couple of the others, but there's some noticeable absences. Like Xander Fagerson isn't there. Now there's Matt Fagerson. I noticed that he's also let Magnus Bradbury go back for Edinburgh today. So I think that tells you that there's a couple of people in the Glasgow squad I think that Gregor Townsend might not be too sure about. At the same time, I think it does show his hand a little bit on how he plans to play England. So you can tell by sort of the absences that are here. There's no Sam Johnson today, no Xander Fagerson, no Matt Fagerson. So you already know who's starting 8. You know who's starting at 12. I doubt it's going to be Cam Redpath that was playing for Bath yesterday, or Sione that's playing for Glasgow today. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, on the good bit, it's Glasgow have got a strong side. I think once you see both lineups, even though Connacht have been on form this season, I think Glasgow just looks a stronger team going into it.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised by how many internationals there were in the Glasgow side. I mean, I'm a big fan of Rufus McLean. I think he's a fantastic winger. He offers that a bit of a spark, quite similar to Darcy Graham, like Shane Williams type of player. I'm a huge fan of his. What will be the game plan from Glasgow today? How will they approach this one? Because Connacht like to throw the ball about quite a bit.
So do Glasgow. I'd be interested to see, just because I know Glasgow do have a lot of first team players, but I think they've got 11 players with the Scotland set up, and they've got about another 6 with the under 20s. So, I mean, I still think they're going to try to play fast ball. I want to keep my eye on, I think it was Ollie Smith. He's playing 15 for Glasgow today. He made his debut against Exeter and scored twice. And he's someone that's not even registered on my radar, but in this match today, he's going to be one that I'm going to have my eye on. I mean, as Scotland fans, most positions we have depth, and we all sort of wonder, like, after Stuart Hogg at 15, who's going to be the next thing?
Yeah.
And I'm hoping it might be Ollie out here today.
Yeah, definitely. Right, we're just kicking off here. It looks like a pretty packed sports ground, and Duncan Weir does get us underway. Predictions for this one, Dan? How are you seeing this one going? Can you give me a score prediction?
I think it's probably going to be fairly high scoring. Both teams like to play fast and loose, but both squads are missing players. I'm going to go for Glasgow by 8.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, I think I'll go for something similar. I do expect it, as you said, to be quite open, quite fast-paced. We just saw at the start there, actually, Glasgow with half a chance on the right-hand side. So it is going to be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, the sports ground is somewhere that's known for being a difficult place to go, but the weather, surprisingly, well, it's dry. So that's a positive down at the sports ground. And it doesn't look too windy, although Connacht messing up their line out there.
Yeah. I mean, surprisingly, if there's one team other than Connacht that isn't going to be affected by the weather, it's probably Glasgow. I mean, I'm not sure if you've ever been, but it's just windy and rainy all the time.
It is, yeah. I think Ospreys, we played there, oh gosh, before Christmas. I've never seen conditions that bad where a game hasn't been cancelled, and we just did not deal with it. It was woeful, but that's like summertime in Galway, isn't it? But there we go. Attacking scrum here for Glasgow, 5 meters out.
There'll be some players I think that are going to want to impress. So in particular, Ollie Kebble's going to want to have a good game. Yes. I mean, Scotland's sort of, he was one of the surprise, absentees, if you will, from this squad. So he's really going to want to put in a good performance. I think Pete Horn as well.
Yeah.
He very rarely gets a game in front of Dobie and Price. He's starting today. He's really, really going to want to impress. I think there's a couple of players there that sort of know if they're going to be in and out of the squad for the rest of them. But those two for Glasgow are really going to have more reason than most to have a good game today.
Yeah. Solid scrum from both teams.
Oh, yeah.
Big run from Sione Tupelotu early on.
Fraser Brown trying to go through the middle.
Yeah. Big chance here for Glasgow. Good intensity. Decent defence, though, from Connacht.
This is where the big men for Glasgow, sort of like Sione and, not Darj. Glasgow, wait, Australia. That was lovely from Rufus McLean.
Was indeed. And Glasgow have got the opening score through Rufus McLean. And I mean, the speed and the intensity there from Glasgow was so good. Got to say, Rufus McLean in at the corner, and Glasgow do have an early lead here, leading here by 5-0 early on. Really good rugby from.
Great to see him back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to say, the speed of ball, just how quickly you were recycling it. Again, the big ball carriers, sucking in the defenders and then going out wide. And those big ball carriers really coming in and making an impact there. So Glasgow leading here in the first, 3-4 minutes or so?
Yeah.
There's an early score.
I mean, McLean's been left out of Glasgow's plans for the last 4 or 5 games. So it's good to see him really back with start again and scoring so quickly into the game. And he's one that's probably going to be knocking on the door for that Scotland jersey. Duhan van der Merwe and Darcy Graham are both probably a little bit ahead of him. But, he's a young man yet, Rufus McLean, and he's so good. I mean, you'll definitely see him, I think, make a couple of appearances off the bench for Scotland this year. Maybe even start if he gets his form right, if he carries on like that.
Well, I'm sure we'll get into it. I'm sure we'll talk about Scotland over the course of the game, but we have recorded a preview for Scotland, actually. Cheeky plug there. That's coming out tomorrow night. Myself and Dan, we had an in-depth chat about what we will expect from Scotland, had a look at the squad and looked at the individual games. So if you're interested in that, that'll be out tomorrow night on the channel. Let's have a look in the chat. Greg is in the chat. Hope you're doing well, Greg, and enjoyed the game last night. Good to see an Aussie doing the refereeing. Yes, indeed. There's a couple of Aussies on the pitch. Jack Dempsey, born in Australia, but qualifies for Scotland, could qualify for Scotland. So
yeah, during the summer, he could qualify.
Good player, isn't he?
Oh, fantastic player. It's when they made that rule change to World Rugby. I don't think he was the type of player that they had in mind that could swap. But I don't know. I don't think I'd have any complaints if he pulled on a Scotland jersey if he keeps playing like this.
Yeah, it's not a bad option to put into that back row options, is it? So, yeah, just big ball carrier. Connacht building nicely here, going through a few phases, and already I think we can tell we're in for a good game. Both teams, very quick ball, trying to throw it around, which is good to see. There was another game earlier on today. I'm sure we'll chat about that later. Karma Peach, hello from sunny Switzerland. Hope you're doing well out there and catching the rugby. But positive start from both sides. Sorry, go on, mate.
Oh, I was just going to say it'll be interesting to see how long Glasgow can keep up this defence. I mean, the defence usually holds up against most teams until about the 65th minute, and then it starts to fall apart. It's like their starting 15 tends to be quite strong, but when they start to take players off the bench, not so much.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see out the players that he has let play today. There's no Rory Darge, which I didn't think he would be starting for Scotland against England. So I thought he might have got released back because I don't know whose place he would take. I mean, he's fantastic, but I'm not sure if he can dismount Jamie Ritchie or Hamish Watson yet.
Yeah. Do you think maybe that's potentially something we don't know about fitness and injury with Watson and Ritchie? I don't want to speak anything into existence with that. Definitely not. But is that something that maybe is happening behind the scenes that we don't know about?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, they both played in Edinburgh's Challenge Cup game, and they both looked good. I think they both scored from memory, actually. So I've not heard anything. I know the Duhan van der Merwe is a maybe for the England game. I know they said a couple of days ago he was out the Scotland training squad with illness. They never specified what it was. I would assume if it was COVID, they would have said.
Yeah.
It could have just been a 24-hour bug. It might be something slightly more serious. So he's the only one that I know about being a maybe. And and if he is, it gives a good chance for that man there, Rufus McLean, to step up.
Definitely.
Who do you think that Connacht's biggest threats are going to be today? What's going to be their main outlet? Who's it going to come from?
Well, I've got to say, I really like Kieran Marmion, the scrum half. I think he loves to speed the game up. Glasgow on the attack here, though. They're really looking to throw the ball about nicely here. But yeah, Kieran Marmion, I'm a huge fan of his. I think the speed of ball he gets, he looks to snipe around the breakdown quite a bit. Apart from that, Farrell in the centre, very, very experienced at this level, also international level. Probably it hasn't been at his best over the last couple of years. Probably that's why. I mean, he's not going to displace Gary Ringrose or Robbie Henshaw. That's just not going to happen. But he is a quality player. But yeah, Kieran Marmion, I'm a huge fan of his. And you just look at the Irish setup at the minute, though. You've got Conor Murray. You've got, Craig Casey. Oh, lovely little grubber attempt there, but knocked on. But Craig Casey. I mean, John Cooney can't even get in the squad, but that's probably something more personal's going on between him and Farrell, I think, because you can't drop someone of his quality. And then you got someone like a Nathan Doak, who last night was fantastic for Ulster, and he's probably knocking out the door as well. So I don't know if Kieran Marmion would even really be in the conversation for the Irish national team either. So, but I think that's the thing. We spoke about it last night in the chat about how Irish rugby seem to manage to spread their talent out over the provinces. You know, it's not as if, right, you're going to stay at Leinster for your whole career. You may not play much, but you can stay. But they're like, okay, you're maybe not quite the level now for us, but go to a Connacht, go to an Ulster, go to a Munster, get better. Maybe when your contract ends in 3-4 years, you can come back. And I think that the Welsh region certainly struggle with that. I don't know what you think about that in Scotland. Do you think there is? I know there's less teams, so that probably does affect it.
In Scotland, if I think they're at the stage where they should really be looking at getting a third pro team now. I know we've got like 2 semi-amateur leagues underneath. We've got what we call the Super Six, and we've got the Scottish Premier League as well, which are 2 semi-professional leagues that tend to feed players to the 2 pro clubs. And when they get to a level like a Hastings or a Hogg or a Russell, they tend to move on to other teams. We don't have that rule in Scotland where if you play outside of Scotland, it stops you from playing for your country. So we do have a bit of freedom in that regard. I think Scotland could do with maybe a team in Aberdeen or a team at the borders, almost like a Connacht, where they can start.
There used to be a team, didn't there? I'm sure there used to be a team. Wasn't it the Borders it was called or something like that?
I think the referee's gone to his pocket here.
He is. It's a yellow card.
Yeah, for Richie Gray.
I'm not going to lie, I'm not watching the game. I have no idea what happened, but I'm sure we'll find out.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, I completely missed it as well. But
let me go to my video assistant to the left of me who's watching the game on their phone. They didn't put it down safely.
Yeah.
Dangerous tackle, not putting the player down safely.
There we go. Our TMO has spoken.
Gone to my assistant referee to my left.
VAR.
Yeah.
Yes. There we go. How do Glasgow now approach the game, do you think, with that yellow? They just, I think they'll just keep looking to play that way, won't they, the way they've been playing so far?
Oh, well, do you remember last year when Scotland played England in Twickenham and Finn Russell got himself sent off for that little kick?
Oh, I remember,
for that little trip on Farrell. And all Glasgow did was they played their usual game for the first 2 or 3 minutes. They ran it fast, kicked it down their end, and then drew out every penalty. They kept going for scrum after scrum after scrum, kept the pressure on. The best form of defense was offense. And then the second the 10 minutes was up, Finn Russell came back onto the pitch and knocked it over for 3 points. And if Glasgow get the ball, I think that's what they'll try to do. Because I noticed immediately they didn't try to clear their line from deep. They tried to run. So I assume that that's going to be their game plan. Although Glasgow haven't had the best consistency recently.
Yeah.
Tackle line out for Connacht here.
Big
advantage.
chance for him.
It looks like Jack Dempsey brought down the maul.
Yeah, big chance here for Connacht. Maul has gone down, though.
So do you think that someone from Connacht, like Bundyaki, who had a good Lions tour, will break into the Ireland squad for the Six Nations? Should you think he can, put out Ringrose or I had his name in my head. Ringrose or Henshaw, that's the one. Sorry, yeah.
I think Henshaw probably offers what Bundyaki already offers in a sense, quite similar style. Yes, I thought Aki was very good in the Lions, so I thought he was physically very, very strong. He's the player I would compare him to, which is probably a bit of a lazy comparison, but Jamie Roberts. He's going to come down that channel. He's going to hit them hard. Going to try and get over the gain line and work from there. And it's something that I think I'm not sure, because when I watched Ireland in the autumn, I thought they tried to expand their game quite a bit. They tried to throw the ball around a lot more, especially against Japan. the question for me is whether Farrell wants to continue to go down that road. Can you play that level against the other nations in the Six Nations? I'm not too sure. I think Aki off the bench is a really good option. I just can't see him displacing Henshaw. And Henshaw and Ringrose over the last year probably have been, alongside Diolande and Lucan Yoam, have been the best international centre pairing in the world, I think. So it's very difficult to displace them. But, when he was put into the line squad, there's a lot of people like, oh, shouldn't be put in the squad. Probably isn't good enough. But I thought he put in a really good shift. And I think Gatland is very good at that, giving someone a very specific job, very specific role within the team on a match day. And as I said, you look at Jamie Roberts, what he did, it worked so effectively for so many years and allowed the other backs then, or more expansive and more attacking backs then, to get involved in the game. So to having gone round about 50 houses, no, I don't think he will break that pairing. But I think Ireland look really strong this year, really strong, and I think they'll be very good.
This is looking real strong for Connacht at the moment.
Going to the phases,
backs to the walls for Glasgow right now.
And discipline's going to be really, really key here.
Yeah.
11 and a half-ish minutes gone, 11 minutes 40 gone.
Glasgow's defence is holding strong. It's amazing, the closer you get to that line, the harder it seems to be to get forwards.
And of course, now you can't put the
out
ball
wide.
in the scrum.
And there's through.
And it is a try for Connacht. And Connacht finally do get their try through their centre. And that pressure did, in the end, tell. That's right, Luke Conway. It is a try for Connacht. And to be honest, it's been a really open game so far. Yes, the yellow card from Glasgow will be a concern. But when a team is that close to the line, they're going through the phases, you're a man down, there's always going to be that space. There's always going to be that gap. Indeed. Let's have a look at some more of your comments. Connor P says, Sexton and Cooney don't get on. Interesting. I mean, the thing with Murray and Sexton is that they've played together for so many years. I mean, how long would they have been there? They've been there for over a decade easily. So, they're going to be, they're going to know each other's game very, very well. It's Cathal Ford at 10, Luke, just so you know.
Although going to the Ireland setup, I mean, recently Conor Murray hasn't been at his best for the last season or so. I mean, he went from being this unplayable scrum half to, and I want to know, is it just a blip, or is it just the years are getting on and they're not being so kind to him now that he doesn't seem to be the same player he was a couple of years ago. So I'd be quite interested to see if they still start Murray in the Six Nations for Ireland. But I mean, maybe put down in the comments if you think, who else would you start if you weren't going to start Murray?
I think he will start. I'm a huge fan of Craig Casey at Munster. I think he's such an exciting scrum half, really speeds the game up. But I think his influence and his impact is best from the bench when teams are tired 60 odd minutes in and you need someone just to speed the game up a little bit. That's probably where he would stand out the most. I think Conor Murray's an interesting one. He obviously was brilliant. I then felt like he had a massive dip. Then he came back a bit, and now he's kind of like Mr. Box Kick himself. So I don't know. But it's he's a good game manager, but does he truly get the best out of his teammates? Because you look at Sexton, you're going to get that wraparound from Sexton, and that's going to happen. Then you're going to have Ringrose and Henshaw on the outside of him. So I don't know. I think Conor Murray to start a game is good, but to come off the bench, I don't see what impact he'd have coming off the bench. So if he's not going to be starting, you probably don't even have him in the match day 23. I think that would probably be his issue. Let's have a look at some more of your comments. Am I doing the Leinster Cardiff game? Yes, I am. So we're going to go live at about 7:25 for that. Kickoff is 25-8 for that one. So we're going to be doing that. That's down at the Cardiff Arms Park. So once this one finishes, it'll load into that next, so you can straight away click on it. To mind English. Let's have a look.
What time's that one kick off at?
25-8.
25-8.
25-8. So we also have Edinburgh against Ospreys, which, is going to not go so well for us Ospreys, but we'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the afternoon.
I think it could go well. I mean, Edinburgh have got very few of their regulars playing in that game. I took a glance at it earlier. I think they've got Bradbury on the bench. Off the top of my head, I mean, there's no Schumann, there's no Jamie Ritchie, there's no Hamish Watson, Blair Kinghorn's not playing. So, I mean, that one I think might be closer than you think, just because there's so many first-team regulars won't be playing.
I think from an Ospreys perspective, our success over the past year or so under Toby Booth has very much been built on defence. And in Europe this season, I mean, it's been a shambolic year for Welsh teams in Europe, so we won't get into that too much. But our defence is what we pride ourselves on, our defence. But this year, our defence in Europe especially has been woeful. Players slipping off tackles, players not putting their bodies in front of other people, just not doing the basics and getting it right. And looking at Edinburgh, I mean, you can probably talk more on them because you probably watch them more than I do. But the way that they've been playing this season under Mike Blair, it's his first, top coaching role. They've been insane. I mean, Emiliano Buffelli at fullback, Kinghorn at 10, Ben Velicott at 9. It's been an insane season from them. And we were speaking last night, weren't we, about whether they could be in that final at the end of the season. It's a difficult one. On their day, yes, I think they could beat everyone barring Leinster, probably, to be honest. But it's a tough one. But tell me about Edinburgh. How good have they been this season? Because they're so fun to watch.
Yeah, no, they're really fun to watch. The only thing you could say against them is that they've not played some of the harder teams in the league yet. You can only beat what's put in front of you, and Edinburgh have done that so far. I'd like to think that they could carry it on all the way. They're now beating the teams consistently that what they think they should be beating. Blair Kinghorn looks to be not Kinghorn, Blair. Mind blanks today, but yeah, he's Mike Blair is been a great motivator for him. He's got the best out of some players that Richard Cockrell didn't, because you look that Blair Kinghorn's come on massively. Magnus Bradbury's come on massively, who under the last regime, both of them looked to be on their way out. Their international careers looked to be over. Richard Cockrell was very much my way or the highway, which worked for some players, and other players did get left behind. And Mike Blair's really making the best of what he's got in Edinburgh. So it'd be very interesting. I don't think that the quality to beat Leinster. I would like to see them play the likes of Munster, though. If they could go toe-to-toe with Munster and take it to the last 5 minutes or even beat them, then, they're in with a shout. I mean, when the playoffs come around at the end of the season, I think Edinburgh will definitely be one of the teams in the running for it. I'd probably say Glasgow probably will be as well. But it's just whether they can win it or not. Can somebody knock out Leinster across the way?
That's the thing, isn't it? Leinster's just so strong, but yeah, Edinburgh under Mike Blair, when he came in, there were quite a few new coaches this year, starting off and not really had all that much experience. I mean, Dwayne Peel at the Scots had obviously been at Ulster as the attacking coach, but then stepping up to the first team and being a first team coach. And I remember watching that first game between Edinburgh and Scarlets at the start of the season. And Edinburgh, you could see what they were trying to do. You could see the game plan. You could see it with Scarlets as well, although they had quite a few more mistakes and little unforced errors. But I've been so impressed by them this season. And at the start, I think everyone was like, it was similar to when Leicester won the league in the Prem. People were like, oh yeah, they're doing well, but they probably won't keep it up for that long. They might keep it going for a month or so, and then they'll start to fall off. But they haven't. And although they have played a lot of the easier teams, I like the fact that they stick to their identity and the way they want to play. They want to throw the ball about. They're going to do it. They played against the Dragons 2-3 weeks ago, probably more than that, before Europe, and just blew them away at Rodney Parade. And although the Dragons, yes, are on the strongest side in the league, they have defensively improved a lot under Dean Ryan. And I just remember Boffelli just pulling the strings, Kinghorn pulling the strings, and just thought, this team is serious. And in Europe as well, getting that win against Sarries, I mean, that's hella impressive, isn't it?
They were unlucky to lose to London Irish by a single point in about the 87th minute as well. So, yeah, look, Edinburgh will do well this season. I've got no doubt. It's just, can they keep it up? Edinburgh, I could safely say, I think they'll finish in the top 4 this year. Dragons, I think they've just touching on them, they've really improved. I mean, they used to be the whipping boys of the URC. Like, they were used to, when you knew you're playing the Dragons, you would look at that game like you're playing Zebra. But now they've really upped their game, and I think they've been quite unlucky in some games as well. There are some results that could have gone another way for them, but no, I think they'll have a good season, and they'll really push on. If they can keep building on it, 2 or 3 years, Dragons could be quite a good side.
And they've obviously signed Bradley Roberts, Welsh international hooker who plays for Ulster. There was a star for them. He comes off the bench. Them did last night. They've signed him. Thomas Young from Wasp.
Glasgow are so dangerous from the line out. Sorry to cut you off there.
No.
The driving maul is so powerful, and it's hard to defend against teams like this. It can't. Take a bow, son. That is absolutely fantastic.
Lovely line.
Yeah.
I mean, you can question the defence, but it's a lovely try, lovely line. And Glasgow, straight after getting their man back on from the bin, it is a try for Glasgow.
Is that Kyle Stein, was it?
Kyle Stein, it is indeed, playing in the centre today, and just shoves off.
I think that shows the intelligence of Sione Tulupo. He's such a big man, and you could see that the Connacht players were expecting him to run himself and run into contact. They had about 2 or 3 men, marking him, getting ready to try to take him down. And just at the last minute, he offloads onto Stein, he's got an open goal to run into.
I mean, it's simple rugby, isn't it? Draw the defender in, draw the man in, and then release the pass at the right time. And Glasgow there, from being 14 men down to all of a sudden gets the player back on, bang, go. As you can probably tell, I'm not a prop, I'm not a forward. How difficult is it to stop a driving maul? Because you're thinking, surely just push back against them.
It's once your momentum's gone, that's when it's fairly difficult. I mean, once you've taken that first foot backwards, it's just trying to get your feet planted in the ground, and it's hard enough to stay still again, let alone start to drive them backwards. I mean, it's been a long time since I've kicked a rugby ball, and I usually played on the second row or as a flanker. But and we used to just practice at pushing against each other. And you can keep driving them slowly. But if they got one bit of momentum and start shoving you backwards, you're gone. You're done.
And it's so difficult to know what's going on in there. And I think momentum is the big thing, isn't it, in the driving maul? That's the way that I see it. But there's a few punches thrown in there, I'm sure, as well, just to make it that a little bit more difficult. But Glasgow leading here by 12.7, halfway through the first half, and back up to 15 men. And we were speaking at the start about, how strong Glasgow had gone. Anyone that's really stood out to you so far that you've been really impressed with?
As in this game or this season?
Yeah, this game, yeah.
Oh, okay. I say Sione Tulupo. definitely. He's always one to watch. I can't remember anyone's name today. Every name's gone out. Name, not Kyle Steen. Oh, the winger. Scored
Rufus
the first
McLean.
Rufus McLean. Why was I getting Kyle Steen in my head there? Just every name today's just gone. Yeah, he's really, really impressed me today. He's playing good. I was going to be keeping an eye on Richie Gray today because he's had some fall from grace. He was fantastic a couple of years ago, and now it looks like Glasgow don't even want him anymore going on for next season. If rumours are to be believed, he's off.
Well, he went to France for a few years, didn't he? He went to Cast. I want to say
it was Clermont he played for.
Oh, one of them. He went over to France, didn't he? I don't think he really tore up any trees there. And then you feel like his brother Johnny Gray really kicked on, didn't he? In context, starting for them week in, week out. Of course, starting for Scotland now. It's an interesting debate because here in Wales we have the 60 cap rule. We have Gatland's law as such. Would you like to see something like that in Scotland, or you've all for seeing players going abroad, improving? You look at Finn Russell is the big example. Yeah. He's gone to Racing and he's improved tremendously, and he's probably one of the best 10s in the world right now. Are you all for players going abroad, getting some experience, maybe making a little bit more money?
I am. It broadens the horizon. Like that was a year ago. Stuart Hogg was being interviewed. This last year's in Glasgow, and how he said he almost hung up his boots. He was just he fell out of love with the game, and he had to. It was one of the reasons he left Glasgow in the first place, and obviously he went on to Exeter, refound his love for the game, and has gone on to be Scotland captain. And in Scotland, we could try to hold on to all our players, and have two really good players like a Leinster and a Munster, and I think ultimately that's probably the SRU's goal. They're going for quality over quantity, but I don't think we have enough teams to be that picky. I think the players individually, it benefits their game as well to see other styles of rugby and go around, and it gives us more of a mix of styles to pull from. Whether we pick some English-based players or some French-based players, or some people in the URC, if Scotland just turned around and said, no, you have to play for Edinburgh or Glasgow, I think you would see the quality of Scottish rugby start to deteriorate very quickly.
But also, it's about being exposed to different styles, isn't it? I was speaking to an English fan a few days ago for the England preview, and she was talking about Joe Marchant, who, of course, went over to the Blues, I think it was, in Super Rugby last year, and said that had just developed his game so much, because very different style to what we have here in the Northern Hemisphere, but just being able to be adaptable and understand different styles is so helpful. And I mean, the regional game in Wales is really struggling at the minute. The teams, we're not being truly competitive in the competition this year. I mean, we've probably been the best side this year, and we've not been great at all, the Ospreys. So it kind of says something about where we're at. But I mean, you look at the Irish sides, how strong they are, and we've spoken about how they have put their players, if you're not quite at the level of Leinster, you'll get to play for Connacht or whatever it is. But we've seen, South Africa followed what Scotland have done, where they're playing all across the world. So it's a difficult one.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Welsh regions, you're right, Ospreys have been the best team this year, probably by some way. And you look at sort of the rapid decline of some of the teams, like Scarlets a couple of years ago, were always up there. Yeah. I remember when I really started to get into the URC, it was always Leinster, and it was all who would win it, and it'd rather be Glasgow, Munster, or the Scarlets that'd be chasing them. And it'd always be one of those three. Glasgow sort of stayed up there. I mean, they've had little dips. Munster stayed up there, but Scarlets they've taken a tumble on a couple of knocks. And I mean, you could argue that they're lucky to be as high up the table as they are. Ospreys, I think, are improving. Yeah. Maybe this season's a bit too soon, but they get solid. They sign one or two new players, and you never know what could be around the corner. I think Wales really for the proud rugby nation that it is, always has to have at least one of its regions competing for the for the title. They can't. It's part of Welsh people are almost born with a ball in hand. It's sort of weird not to see sort of any serious Welsh challenge this season.
Yeah, it's a very difficult one. It's a touchy subject for a lot of people, but you look at Scarlet's new head coach come in. I do think we are seeing some positives, like last night's performance, and maybe it says more about the players because last night's team from the Scarlets, really young side, lots of players making their debuts, a new captain playing, and I thought for 60 odd minutes they were really competing with Ulster, and probably Ulster should have had a red card, probably. Yeah. I'd say. I will share that clip at half time to see what people think, because I did cut it down. But I think Scarlets have improved. But again, they had the whole fiasco out in South Africa where they were stuck out there and all that. The Dragons, I do think, are improving. And Dean Ryan, Cardiff are making some amazing signings. They've signed Liam Williams from the Scarlets for next year. Yeah. Thomas Young is coming in. Dai Young, his son. He's coming in next year. They've got Reece Priestland in at 10, who's got his way back into the Wales squad. I really like Jared Evans. He's starting tonight at 10. There's a lot of really good players there. And then the Ospreys, again, it's a difficult one with the Ospreys because we are boring to watch. But on the whole, it works. On the whole, it does work. But again, we've had so many injuries. And you look at the injury list for the Wales players who would be playing for the regions week in, week out. This year, it's been horrific. I mean, Tipperick is out. You've got Alan Wynne is out. Anscombe has been out for nearly 2 years. Lee Halfpenny's out. I mean, the list just... Navidi's out. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And it seems like Pivac is a little bit confused on the way that he wants to play. And he's not sure which players he wants to pick, but there are some good young players coming through.
Pivac, I don't know where I sit on him. Do I think he gets more stick than he deserves? I mean, he brought Wales to win the Six Nations last year. And let's be honest, Wales had no right to win the Six Nations last season. I think most people, including myself, had them down for fifth. But the Wales always seemed to up their game. I thought that Wales were in a period of transition, that there was going to be a changing of the guard and there was going to be a natural, 2 or 3 season bit of turmoil while, they started to phase out some of your older guys and you started to bring in some of the new guys, and they kicked on. They did fantastic. I mean, it's a bit of a hard one. I think I won't go too much into the preview that you've got coming out tomorrow, but Wales are a team that, even though on paper I've got them down for fifth, that you underestimate them at your own peril. They'll always come back in and bite you. They always punch above their weight. Now, going on to sort of old players, do you think you might see Moriarty feature in a Wales jersey again this season?
Well, he played yesterday against Benetton. I think he had about 60-odd minutes. I'm a big fan of his.
Likewise.
Bulldozer of a player will just pick the ball and run at defence, which is really good. And again, we've got a lot of injuries in the back row. I mean, Faletau, Navidi, Tipperick are all out. So, I'm a big fan of Moriarty. Probably technically not the best player in the world, but when you need someone just to pick the ball and run
he's
hard.
Solid, though.
And, defensively, really, really solid option in the line-outs as well. And a bit of a leader, I feel, as well. When he signed for the Dragons from Gloucester, there was a lot of he's going to the Dragons. That's quite surprising. He's going to that level. But he's been a fantastic player for them, and good to see him back. But the player to keep an eye out on in the back row for Wales is Jack Morgan. Watch this kid. He is quite similar to Justin Tipperick, very comfortable with the ball in the loose, but at the breakdown, watch him jackal the ball. He will try and slow the ball down. I don't think he will start for us. I don't see that happening. But coming off the bench when we maybe need to slow the ball down a bit or just be a nuisance at the breakdown, I'm such a big fan of his. And He was Wales under-20 captain for a bit, has come from the Scarlets. We signed him on a free, which was seen as a huge coup at the time. And I'm so excited to see what he can do. But yeah, we got so many injuries. It's painful.
Oh.
It's painful.
This end to end, I mean, penalty after penalty, interception after interception. In the one you see both teams, and it looks like Glasgow are through here. But
play from them.
No.
But I wanted really end to end.
Yeah.
And both teams throwing the ball about. We have kind of moved away from the game, but that's absolutely fine. But half an hour gone, still 12 points to 7. But it is very much back and forth in this one. And we are drawing towards half time.
I want to go back to, there's a point that Sean O'Farrell made in the comments when we were talking about players playing outside of Scotland. And it is true. I mean, there is that downside. I mean, it probably has more of an impact in COVID times than it does outside of COVID. I mean, we saw it when Scotland had to play that rearranged game with France on the last day of the Six Nations. I mean, sometimes in the autumn, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland like to throw in an extra game. But that extra game is usually to bring through development players anyway, or Gregor Townsend sometimes likes to go shopping and poach English-based players from time to time. And that's usually what those games are for. But, he's got a point. There is a downside to that. I mean, the only way I can see getting around that would be, again, if Scotland were to, go and have a third pro team, whether it be in the Borders, whether it be in Aberdeen for, the North and the Highlands, could be Dundee, Fife, and bring through and just ship all their development players up to there. I mean, because that's what, traditionally, it's what Connacht used to be for Ireland. It's where they would send all their development players, and if they get exposed to regular high-quality game time on the regular, it could only be good for the sport.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because obviously funding is a big other thing that you have to consider with getting another Scottish side in there. But there used to be a Scottish third team as well. Again, do you feel like you need it, or do you feel like the way the system is now works okay with players playing in England, playing in France?
I mean, yeah, it does work at the moment. It does. But I feel like that Scotland are getting close to their glass ceiling with two clubs. I mean, they'll improve a little bit more than they are now, but they're not going to have that level of consistency and have that depth pool if they don't. Scotland, the SRU still is turning over a tasty bit of profit at the moment. Their finances are sort of in good nick. So I would like to see an extra team eventually. I don't think they should go for 4 like the Irish or the Welsh yet. They're not there. But 1 would be a good place to start. Scotland are starting to get to that level where they're as good as they're going to get. They can't get much better than what they are now. Two teams sort of competing for the URC and sort of the star players playing outside of Scotland. There's not much more depth that you can actually bring into it at this point.
No, I agree. And I think that the way Scotland have approached it, where, I don't know, maybe with the Welsh Rugby Union, there's a little bit of pride. It is an issue potentially that they were like, right, we want our players in Wales. We want them here all the time. Where Scotland said, you know what, for the benefit of the national team, and also when you look at the regions in Scotland, the 2 sides in Scotland, if Finn Russell isn't playing out of Glasgow, it gives an opportunity for Ross Thompson to come through, who I think is an exceptional talent, and gives him more opportunity to play. So you do get an opportunity to see these young players that little bit more, where sometimes, like, you look at an Ospreys, yes, it's great to have your international players playing, absolutely draws in the crowds, but does that then hamper the development of youngsters? Glasgow on the attack here, probably, about 7 minutes and a bit to go, 6 minutes and a bit to go till half time. Would another try kill this game off, do you think?
No. Not that they're still too close together, even if they were to score there. Connacht are a good side. You've seen how end to end it is. I mean, even if Glasgow scored here, Connacht could go and score 2 tries in the next 15 minutes. Yeah. So if they scored another 2 or 3 tries, maybe. Going back to what you were saying about development, I've mixed feelings about I know they've had to because of COVID, but originally URC weren't going to have any club matches take place during the international window, which part of me is like, oh yeah, no, that's great. But then another part of me was that was the time where you really got to see who was coming through, like years gone by. Like there'd be a lot of players that you wouldn't have heard of that you'd flick on, like I think Edinburgh versus Scarlets was always one of my favourite games. Always tends to be very high scoring. And if you saw 2 of their sides playing with essentially the reserve teams, it was the only real coverage that you got to see who was coming through, really, other than the odd appearance from the bench. And I'm not sure long term how that's going to affect the league with some of these teams when they're not getting their the young players don't get those 4 or 5 games a season.
Chance here for Glasgow.
Yeah, I mean their driving maul is just so powerful.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's a try for Glasgow.
Brown.
There's the driving maul once again. Really well worked there. And I like the fact that they backed themselves to go for that. Really nicely done. And Fraser Brown, is it?
Yeah, Fraser Brown.
And Glasgow.
Surprised he got left at the Scotland squad, Fraser Brown. Just the fact he can play flanker as well, and he's been on good form at the moment. He's part of their leadership program, so he'll be knocking on their door. He'll want to impress. And I'm sure you're going to be really, really happy with that try. And just before half time as well, it gives you that psychological edge now.
And also a tiny bit of breathing space as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That you need. Because, as we said, the game's been very back and forth, but Glasgow, they're back in their driving maul, going to the corner, turning down 3 easy points. And, well done to them, definitely. Duncan Weir's going to try and get the conversion. We're about 3 minutes or so away from half-time. We'll take a break at half-time. Just before we get to half-time, make sure, if you haven't done so already, to check out Stuck in the Scrum. It's the Facebook group that Dan has set up. There's a link in the chat. Click the link. Go on and join their great rugby chat in there. I'm in there. Dan's in there. So many great fans are in there. And also some of you guys I know already in there. So do make sure to check that out during half-time. Let's have a look at some more of your comments. Andy was just keeping us up to date on the Sharks and Stormers game. 8 points to
Thank you, Andy.
Stormers. And Duncan Weir has added the 2 points, so we'll add that on in a second. And let's have a look. Sharks are down to 14 men as well in that one. So we'll keep an eye on how that game goes throughout the rest of the afternoon. So oh no, he's missed the kick. Sorry.
Oh, Rufus McLean going to pull off a bit of magic here, maybe.
Lovely. He's backed himself. Does he have the speed? Where's the bounce going?
Oh no.
Jumped on the man on the ground, I think there.
Thank you, Richard. Welcome to the group. It's a small group, but it's grown. For anyone that's interested, like Brandon as well, we've both got fantasy leagues going for this year's Six Nations. I've joined your one, by the way, this morning.
Oh, brilliant.
I'm in as many of them as I can get my hands on this season. If you go into the Stuck in the Scrum page, I think I posted one earlier on, Tower One. The teams haven't been released yet, so I've not picked my team.
No.
But I've got a rough idea of who I'm going to put down. Got a rough idea, but that, and I'm going to set up a match point predictor league as well for anyone that's interested.
Absolutely, yeah. So Fantasy Six Nations is back. I'll drop the link to the one that we're doing, and I'll get the one for which Stuck in the Scrum are doing. You can join that and get involved with that. We did that last year. I did woefully. I think I finished 10th out of about 13 people or something like that. So I'd like to do a little bit better this year. That'll be quite nice. I probably shouldn't back my Welsh boys as much as I do and think that they're going to do that well. But we'll see how we get on this year. I mean, I'm always going to wait until the teams come out. Always going to wait for the teams to come out. So
when do they come out? Is it Wednesday or Thursday? Is it?
So the Wales team is. Pivac's been quite up and down with it. You know, sometimes he'll go early and announce on a Tuesday out of the blue. And usually I try and like time it so that I either make a video on it or I then share the team out on social media. And I'll be there on a Tuesday afternoon. I'll be doing something. I'll be like, it'll pop up on my phone. I'll be like, well, this isn't meant to have come in for another 2 days. Usually, traditionally for Wales, it's been midday on the Thursday if it's a Saturday kickoff. If it's a Sunday game, it's usually on the Friday that it comes out. Gregor Townsend tends to go a little bit earlier, doesn't he, as well?
Yeah, he does tend to go fairly early. Although sometimes he does like to wait until after his opponent to name his squad. I have noticed that. So he'll probably do it about 2 hours after Eddie Jones does his. I mean, England going into that first game, I'd really be interested to see who they play because they've got quite a few injuries now.
Well, Farrell's the big one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say this, I don't wish injuries on anyone, but I think in the long run, it's probably going to be better for England that he doesn't play. England have had better players than Owen Farrell for quite some time now, and I think it'd be good to see him through. Marcus Smith has been on fire really in the English Premiership, but I'd expect him to make a few mistakes. People will drive up the hype with him. I think he's probably what Finn Russell was about 3 or 4 years ago. Same type of player. So, but he's young. He's young. He's got a bright future ahead of him.
Absolutely.
I'm going to back him to pull off some absolutely moments of magic, but I'm also going to say he's going to have a few howlers as well.
Yeah. Do you think? Do you think that at Murrayfield, you know, not wanting fans to get on the player's back, but do you think that something like that could play on his mind? You know, if the crowd gets onto him.
Well, I hope so.
Big, I don't know. Let's pick a Johnny Gray charging him. Do you remember the Courtney Laws tackle from a few years ago on the French fly half, where he absolutely mauls him?
Massive. I mean, well, look, I'm going to be there at Murrayfield on the first game, and I'm 100% going to be on his back. So I'm going to, try my hardest, and I'll hope for a really, really good, entertaining game. But look, it'll harden him as a player. He has to be, he has to do it. It looks like Connacht are going to go for the 3 points here.
Yeah, we are into the red, so chance for them to draw within a converted try. First half, looking at it, it's been a good game, although we haven't been focusing on it all the time, but it has been a good game. What have you made of it so far from a Glasgow perspective? You must be pretty pleased with some of the stuff you're playing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's been end to end. I've not got to see as much as Ollie Smith as I would have liked, unfortunately. Some of the players who clearly have a bit to prove for Townsend have. Rufus McLean's been good. Sione's been fantastic. Fraser Brown's been good. I'm disappointed that Richie Gray's having a poor game.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always had high hopes for him. I was buzzing to hear when he was coming back to Glasgow, but I don't know where he's going to go. And if he is leaving Glasgow at the end of the season, maybe someone in the comments can tell me where he's off to. But I just don't know where he would go. Who would have him?
Mid-table team in France, maybe like a Bordeaux or someone. Well, Bordeaux aren't mid-table, but
he may go to Japan to take a payday. Maybe might go to America. It is tough. I really wish him well, and I hope he ups his game for the rest of the season because he does have it in him, but he's just not showed it.
Well, when him and his brother were breaking through, I mean, there was so much excitement about them, but maybe going to France at the time he did probably wasn't the best move for him. It is half time though. Glasgow leading by 17 points to 10, so probably a little bit closer than maybe Glasgow would have wanted at this point. We are going to take a quick 2-minute break because my bladder is dying and I am dying for a cup of tea. So there you go. So we're going to take a quick 2-minute break. Make sure, folks, that you've liked the stream, that you subscribe. Keep your comments coming in the chat, and of course, check out Stuck in the Scrum as well.
The one that Sean's put into it, I think it's a really good question. Should we get back to that one after the break?
Yeah, we'll get back to that, Sean, after the break for half-time because my bladder can't cope with this. But we will be back shortly. Don't go anywhere. There we go. We are back. It is half time down at the sports ground over in Galway. Connacht Connacht trading by 10 points to 17. Hope everyone is doing well. Welcome back in. And I've dropped food all down me. That's smart, isn't it? But I hope everyone is doing well this afternoon. Good to see so many of you in the chat. Let's have a look at what some of you are saying. We are going to get into that very shortly, Sean, alongside Dan. And when Dan gets back, we'll go through that. And let me know your thoughts on the first half as well, folks. And get any questions you got in the chat. Of course, Six Nations is coming up very, very shortly. A week to go. A week today it starts. And they're really, really excited for that. And of course, we're going to be doing watch-alongs for all the games. So I'm really excited to bring you that. Andy Bradley saying the Stormers are 3-3 in that one. Neil Robertson is back in Glasgow to win. Sharks 3, Stormers 11, and down to 14 men half-time. Thank you for letting us know, boys, on that one. Just to let you know, folks, that we have got a preview this evening coming out for England ahead of the Six Nations. But if you can't wait until 7 o'clock tonight, you can check it out now. The audio version is on Spotify. So if you want to listen to the England preview for the Six Nations this afternoon, before the video version comes out, it is now in the chat. The link is there. I was joined by Debs Knight from 365 Sporting Days. We'll be really, was a really good chat with an interesting chat to get her thoughts ahead of England's campaign. And then tomorrow, myself and Dan's preview of Scotland will be out at 7. But again, the audio version will be out a little bit earlier. So if you want to check it out, make sure to follow the pod on Spotify. But yeah, half time in this one. Lots of comments to get into. I think Dan is back, so we'll get him in just a second. But hope everyone is doing well. Hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and of course, get involved in the chat. We do have a Leinster Cardiff watch along later on tonight. And kickoff for that is 25-8. I want to say it is. I think it's 25. We're going 25-8. So that is later on. But 10 points to 17 at half time. Very back and forth game. We're going to get Dan back in now. I think he is all set to go. So let's get him in. Dan, decent first half, wasn't it? It was a decent performance from Glasgow as well.
Yeah, good, intense stuff. They've started all their games this season well. It's their second half that we're going to have to see if they've really changed or not. Glasgow in some games can concede 20, 30 points in the space of 10, 15 minutes. So I want to see if they can keep it tight. I was disappointed they conceded that 3 points right at the end. I was thinking to myself, from a psychological standpoint, once Glasgow scored that try so close to half-time, they would have wanted to keep it tight and keep it clean going into half-time, but they conceded that 3 points. I hope that doesn't play on the back of their mind. But, it very well could do. But the game, it's a good game. Both teams play similar styles of rugby. And you like it when you've got two teams that like to throw the ball about. They're always good games to watch. It's a great advert for the URC, this one.
Definitely is. One of the comments we saw just before we went for a break there was this by Sean, saying about the new Scrum law that's going to be used in the Six Nations. Well, let me share my screen and we will read through what that Scrum law
is. Thank you. I don't have to Google it.
So let's have a look. This is on the Irish Times. So this is what they say about it. This is the law. So it's about protecting hookers when they go to try and hook the ball. When you're in the scrum in the front row, a lot of pressure comes on the neck. So they're wanting to protect players as much as possible. So this is what the new law says here. So over here, it says, the new upcoming trial law makes it mandatory for a hooker to keep 1 foot forward during the bind phase in order to act as a break before the front row is engaged. So when the ref says bind, set, engage, it's about trying to stop that force going on the neck, isn't it? That's what it's all about. So this is to ensure that the packs hold their own weight and maintain a small gap. The law is going to be used in the men's, the women's and the under-20 Six Nations. The punishment for a hooker failing to put their foot forward as a break will be a free kick. What are your thoughts on that, Dan? Do you think it's just about the protection of players, or do you think it will enhance the spectacle of the game at all?
Well, I hope so. I mean, safety, player safety is always sort of at the forefront of everyone's mind. You see, sort of, the more time goes out, the more head injuries you're seeing play a massive, massive part in the game. So I think it can only be a good thing. Hopefully, it does speed the scrums up. The scrums have been getting slightly better in recent years, but you don't have to go back too far. What, 5-6 years? You remember where every scrum took 7-8 minutes. And I'm glad to see that they've eliminated that. They've really sped it up. And yeah, this is just hope that it protects players. I don't have any feelings on it either way yet. I've not seen it in action. I'm not one of these people that is opposed to change. I'm usually very receptive to it, especially if it's if there's good intentions behind it. So yeah, it'll be good to see.
Do you think it's going to be difficult to regulate it? That's the only thing I can see being an issue, is how they're going to spot this, because already within the scrum, a lot of the time, nobody really knows what's going on.
Yeah. It's pretty difficult. I'm currently teaching my other half all the rugby laws at the moment. She's coming up to Edinburgh with me to see the Scotland-France game, and bless her, she's throwing herself sort of head over heels with it. I get text at work, be like, "What's the difference between an open side flanker and a blind side flanker?" And I'm trying to explain to her sort of when a scrum goes down, why it's been penalised and what goes where. And for me, someone who's been watching rugby for years, even I struggle with it. And I think, especially for newbies, the only thing that worries me is, for trying to grow the sport, that rugby is already quite a complicated game as it is, for people that, aren't already familiar with it. So, Connacht look to be in here.
They are indeed.
Yeah.
5 meters out, and it is a try for Connacht.
And what did I say?
Yes, they have.
The Glasgow tends to fall apart in the second half. I'm just hoping we're not seeing a repeat of their past European trips.
Connacht there, 15.17 try there for them. Good forward play from them. Yeah, so we're just talking about the scrum laws, and you were saying there about how the game can seem quite. I think because we've grown up watching the game and getting into the game that way, you sometimes get a feeling about why something's happened a certain way at a scrum or at a breakdown, or you're kind of guessing what's going on. But as you said, it could be really difficult for those who are new to the sport to understand what's going on. And I'm telling you, when you got someone sat next to you and it's a frustrating game and they're asking, why is this happening? Why is that happening? I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I know it can be quite difficult, but yeah, I hope the refs are good at spotting this. With every new law, there's always going to be a player or two that'll find a way to take advantage of this.
Richie McCaw? What? Sorry.
Yeah, there's always somebody that can do it. So it'll be an experiment. It'd be good to see. It's I think it's a good thing. They're going to be protecting the players. I just hope it doesn't, slow the game down at all any. Players collapsing, scrums purposely. I know that Xander Fagerson very famously went on record once saying that he always purposely collapses the first scrum of every single game just to see what the ref will do. If he still does it or not, I'm not sure, but yeah.
Ollie Kebble there with a nice little move there.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the offloading game that the Scottish teams like to play. It's very attractive to watch.
Do you think that's because you look at the way Edinburgh and Glasgow play, they play quite similar styles, and then the national teams play a similar style. Do you think that's something that the SRU have tried to integrate into the teams, that we all want to play similar styles, so that when they do make the step up to the national side, that it's not completely alien to them? Because you look at the Welsh sides, Ospreys play a completely different style to the Scarlets. Cardiff play a completely different style to the Dragons. There's no unity in the styles.
Well, I think it goes back to when Gregor Townsend first took over. The SRU implemented something called the Blueprint, which was just going to be the foundation of how Scotland plays, what their identity is. It looks like Dempsey's off here from Miller, but about how their identity was, they tried to play the fastest brand of rugby in the world, which I don't think worked for them. But they probably still play one of the fastest brands of rugby in the world. And I think that's filtered down into the clubs. There's parts of that original game plan of go, 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 go that they've kept, and both Edinburgh and Glasgow have still kept it. The players in the Scotland squad know how to play it, and so obviously that's going to filter down to the clubs.
Yeah, I think it is quite a good way of doing things. Again, you still want players to be able to play different types of style as well, and sometimes getting the best of each different bit. Glasgow have taken the lead once again, a penalty kick through there, so 20 points to 17 now in this one. Glasgow leading by 3 points. But yeah, I think if you look at England, for instance, there's so many teams that play in England, obviously, but when you think of how England traditionally play, big, powerful, physical, going to use the driving maul, going to use their big ball carries, and yet over the autumn you felt like they were slightly moving away from that. Same with the Irish team. I mean, under Farrell, under Schmidt, very physical, but then last autumn we saw them throwing the ball out a lot more. So you do feel like teams are adapting. And just quickly jumping back onto the scrum debate that we were having about, the change in laws. We saw last year in Major League Rugby, they trialled a lot of different laws. They seem quite open trying different things. They trialled the 50-22 rule, which I think has been a fantastic addition.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's been a brilliant addition. They did trial something else with the scrums, where if the scrum goes down 2 times, that's it. We don't reset. The ref has to make a decision, which hasn't been implemented into the rest of World Rugby yet. But it's good to see that we all try new things. We're trying to adapt and make the game more enjoyable, because some people are just scared of change as well, you feel.
Yeah, there are some people, like I've got, like, I'm sure most people here, they've got their own little rugby group chats, and sort of like within mine, I've got a couple of people of mine that are very open to change, and then I've got other people that every single law change, they'll moan about it. So some people naturally just are opposed to change, and you can't do it too fast, or you start to alienate some of those people. So I think the two failed scrum rule, personally, I'd like to see that, but maybe don't bring in so many rules at a time. The 50-22 rule, I'm really, really excited to see that this year. From a Scotland point of view, I mean, I think that between Ali Price, Finn Russell and Stuart Hogg, they're going to milk that. That's something that Scotland are going to take advantage of.
Well, Hogg's spiral kick down the field, you can just see it already, can't you?
Yeah. Hogg with spirals. Finn Russell's game management when it comes to kicking from ball in hand is second to none. Ali Price's kicking game is phenomenal. I know that he's been off form maybe for the last game and a half, but I mean, you've seen it for the last couple of years. His box kicks are incredible. So I think that rule in particular for the Six Nations teams will probably favour Scotland more than some of the other nations. I think it'll favour France quite well as well. So that's one from a very selfish point of view that I'm quite excited to. Luke saying in the chat, do we think that Jack Carthy should start for Ireland in the Six Nations?
I mean,
start, no, but I think he's a good bench
well.
option. I mean,
not scored.
I think we need to watch more of the game, mate.
Jack Carty is an interesting one. I do like him a lot. Very high on the kicking stats in the URC. What else does he bring to a team in terms of controlling a game and running the game attacking wise? Look, Sexton's going to be starting.
Oh, who's that? I missed that talking about our last bit. That looks like it's Ollie Kebble by the looks of it.
Someone is down. I think it might be Ollie Kebble. It looks like a head injury, so we'll focus on
neck injury, maybe.
Yeah. So
head. My TMO informs me it's a head injury.
So they're going to
What was
check this.
Yeah. It looks like a head-on-head collision.
Do you think it's anything more than that?
Who's playing 6 for Connacht today?
It is. Let me get it up. Playing 6 today.
I didn't manage to grab his face.
It is Ewan Masterson is playing 6.
Yeah.
So he has wrapped, though. That's the thing, hasn't he? He has wrapped as he's gone in, but he's hit the man that he's not tackling, if you know what I mean, at the same time.
No foul play.
Fraser Brown looks to be very unhappy with the decision. I think the referees deemed it as no foul play by the looks of it.
It's a difficult one, that, because he's obviously gone in. He has wraps. There's no like movement with the shoulder or anything like that. It's just a head-on-head collision. And always when that happens, the ref has to start a red card and work his way down, see if there's any mitigation and things like that. Ori Kebbel has gone off. I thought that because that's happened, I think this could be a really interesting thing to watch. I'm going to share this from yesterday. Pause that and turn the audio off. Now, this was a yellow card in the game yesterday between Ulster and Scotland. It's a tackle from Craig Gilroy on Tom Rogers. It was given as a yellow. I want to know what you think on this. So it'll play through a bit and then we'll see the slow-mos. Obviously, the slow-mos make it look a lot worse than it was, but it's a difficult one because he's dipping down. But there is that.
Yeah, I remember that from yesterday. That can go anywhere from a penalty to a red, really, because the Ulster man, he is going in. He's a bit high. He does lower himself. The Scarlets player does slip down, so there's serious mitigation there. I think yellow was probably the right call. But look, another referee could have given that as a red easily. I think I was watching your watch along yesterday. I was a few whiskies down, admittedly, but when I saw that first time round, I thought it was a red. But seeing it on repeat there, no, I think it's a yellow. Connacht of take the penalty scored the 3, but Glasgow continuously, like in other games, are struggling to put a game to bed when they get into the lead. Glasgow really need to, score, I'd say, within the next 10, 15 minutes and actually keep Connacht out. I mean, on paper, they look to have the stronger squad. But, Connacht, a lot of heart, a lot of pride.
Yeah. Do you think the game plan maybe needs to change from Glasgow, play in the right areas of the field, be a bit more sensible rather than trying to play from your own half?
I think it's their discipline mainly. They give away a lot of brain-dead penalties, just like not rolling away. The amount of penalties that Glasgow can see just for not rolling away, that's schoolboy stuff.
Yeah.
It can be quite frustrating to watch, especially when they're playing against bigger name teams, like when they got hammered that, I think, 52-17 by Exeter. Like, they were in the game and they were winning up until about the 60th minute, and then they conceded 30 points in the last portion of the game. So my only worry is I really hope that doesn't transfer into the Scotland squad. Their ill discipline. Yeah. Ollie Smith's one of his first touches I've noticed with the ball, and
lovely feet.
Yeah,
dancing feet. I'm not going to lie, I've never heard of Ollie Smith. What do you know about him?
I didn't know anything about him until the Exeter game. Because he's not first string for Glasgow. He plays behind Forbes is usually the starting fullback for Glasgow. Oh, sorry to interrupt, but yeah, he came on as a substitute against Exeter, and that was one of the only bright sides he came on. He only played about 20 minutes of the game, but he scored against Exeter twice, I think.
Yeah.
So he looks to be a fabulous young talent that's come through. I'm not sure if it's just he's in a bit of form or he really is that special, but I'd like to see him, play a little bit more.
Yellow card for Connacht. Paul Boyle sent to the bin.
Oh, wow.
After, I think it was Stein who made the break. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was the opposite winger. Lovely break there. Now, I think he went off his feet at the breakdown, stopping the try-scoring opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, at this point in time, I know a lot of people say take the 3. It's a tight game and you're under the post. But personally, I'd like to see Glasgow go for the corner here.
The driving maul again.
Yeah, well, look, they're 1 try away from the bonus point. Connacht are a man down. It's risky. Look, the safe thing says take the 3, but I think that Glasgow have lost some games this season because they didn't back their own ability. And I think they really should. They've got the stronger maul here. They've got a man up. I kicked to the corner. They're 1 try away from getting that bonus point.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, it's a difficult one because if you do go to the corner and you mess it up, and then it's like you just turn down the easiest 3 points in the world. But again, personally, I think I would take the points just because there's enough time in the game to get that bonus point try. But I can see both sides of it. This is why I'm not a professional rugby player, because I can't make decisions like this. It is a tough one. I think Glasgow will go to the corner. I think they will back themselves to do it. But the sensible option is to take the points. But then I guess it's how you feel as a team as well, isn't it? If you feel like, right, we can do this, we can, we're feeling good, we're feeling strong, we're confident, we can go to the corner and get something from it. It's not in Glasgow's style not to go for the corner, not to try and attack.
Yeah, they're a very sort of expansive team. I've got to say, when it comes to discipline, Glasgow aren't a sensible side, so I hope they don't do the sensible thing here. I'd like to see them go for the corner. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what they're doing. Oh, interesting. I might be a couple of seconds ahead of you, but it looks like Glasgow have decided to go for the scrum.
Whoa. You can understand that because the 8 is off injured, off in the bin. So they're going to have to bring her back into the scrum or just have only 7 people in there. So they'll have the dominance or they'll have that gap out wide somewhere. So maybe a 2-2 coming off a line from the back of the scrum would be an option. We'll have to wait and see.
Sean says Sharks 16, Stormers 3.
Yeah, I think Stormers are struggling this season as well as the Bulls. The Bulls got hammered before. Scrum goes down.
Can we see the South African side? Do you think by the time the season's finished, do you think one of them can push their way up to a playoff spot, finish in the top 8?
The only team that I could see doing that is the Sharks because they got the likes of Sia Khaleesi, Lucanio Am. Obviously, they were away with South Africa for a while, and with these, with COVID and the games having been postponed, and now they're starting to replay them during the course of the Six Nations. I'm not sure if any of the South African teams are going to be coming across over the next couple of months with COVID and everything, but you feel that would be the time to really capitalise on teams being weaker because their international stars are away. The Sharks are really the only team that I can see doing that. The Lions are probably the worst team in the competition alongside Zebra. The Bulls have improved, but I'm yet to be wowed by them. The Sharks probably are the strongest. To me personally, no, I don't think so. I think they'll be better next year. having had a year to adapt, a year to improve, and once hopefully all this COVID stuff is out the way, the travel will be much easier.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of the South African teams being in there in the first place, to be honest, but they offer something different to the league. So
yeah, and it's our teams going down to play in their neck of the woods. That's where they really shine when we play in front of the South African side on the tough surfaces that they've got. So it looks like Glasgow have been given a penalty here from the scrum.
Oh, tap and go.
But yeah, when they made the announcement, I was a little bit annoyed. Oh, surely that's illegal. But that we didn't bring in some European sides into it. I mean, I would have loved to see, especially just to try grow the game in Europe. I would have loved to see some. Was it the Diddy 12 they call the league in Georgia? I would love to see some Georgian teams in it. Maybe even a Russian league, a Spanish league, a Spanish team, a Dutch team.
Yeah.
Start to, even if they only had one, and they had because then their respective unions can funnel a lot of their funding into the one club, their one pro club, and you'll start to see that. You could see that Germany might field a half decent team, and Russia doing. And if you get to a point where there's more than 7 very good teams in Europe, it grows the game.
Yeah, exactly. Glasgow have knocked it on here. They were so close to scoring, but nothing coming from that. But I was speaking about it last night on the watch along. You know, when you think about the World Cup, Georgia are always there. Romania are mostly always there. Portugal recently went and beat Canada for the first time. Canada, one of the stalwarts of the World Cup. Obviously, they haven't qualified for the next World Cup. So I would have loved to have seen a Georgian team in there. People always speak about relegation and promotion in the Six Nations. But unless these Georgian players, a lot of them, yes, are playing in France, but a lot of them are still playing in Georgia itself. Unless they're being challenged against Irish sides, against Welsh teams, against Scottish sides, against Italian sides, they're never really going to know whether they're good enough for this level. And again, look, it comes down to money, doesn't it? Promotion, relegation, all this kind of thing. No. Is there going to be enough interest in an Ospreys heading to Tbilisi? Good weekend out, I guess. But is there going to be enough interest there? Would the teams out there now take it seriously enough? But then the counter argument to that would be it's going to take time. You know, it's going to take time for these teams to get to the level. And if you can really, you know, rugby is the biggest sport in Georgia. It's the national sport there. So they clearly love their rugby and they're a good team. You know, Georgia are. But I mean, it's all about money at the end of the day, I feel.
It is. I mean, I think I said it on your watch long yesterday. Like, it's very rare, but once every 10, 20 years, if England and France have a crazy bad year and they get, their once in a 20-year wooden spoon, and England have to spend a year in the championship, for instance, like the interest in the Six Nations would drop hugely, and so would the money from it. Now, personally, look, I'm all in favour of this. I think I would actually like to bring 1 or 2 more teams into the Six Nations, and I would like to do like a last place would be relegated and do what they do like in German and Scottish football, where the runners-up of the league below would play the second last team in the 7 or 8 nations at that point on a promotion versus survival on a one-off game. I think Rufus McLean might have worked another bit of magic in there.
Lovely step from him. And I'm pretty sure he's got that down, right?
It looks like he's got that down.
I think they're going to check. Will they check it? It's going to be interesting to see.
I don't know what the ref's on-field decision was.
For me, that looked like a try. Really good work from the forwards of Glasgow, and the ball goes out wide. Of course, they do have the extra man. Rufus McLean steps inside. The only other thing that you could say there is there might
I'm not sure what you saw.
Be a high tackle on Rufus McLean, but I got that down.
Yeah, he definitely got it down. Well, from what I'm
Yes,
seeing
he
here.
has. I'm looking at that, and he's got that down. So this is going to be a try for Glasgow, and Glasgow take the lead 25 points to 20, making that extra man count.
Yeah, that's the bonus point score.
Yeah, bonus point, really important to get that bonus point. And Glasgow there. So big kick this one, Duncan Weir.
Yeah, big kick. I want to see him play better than he has this season. I thought he might have had a year or two left in him. I knew he wasn't going to, he wasn't ever going to be like a like for like replacement for Hastings. But I thought that he was going to be the main one while Ross Thompson slowly gathered his confidence. But he's playing second fiddle to Ross Thompson at the moment.
Yeah. Duncan Weir misses that kick. So how important could that kick be going into the final 20 minutes? But bonus point in the bag now for Glasgow, which is good to see. Yep, kick missed by Richard. Jonathan, hope you're doing well, mate. Good to see you in the chat, as always, out in Costa Rica. Not jealous at all. But lovely weather in Wales today. It's not pissing down.
We've got a nice day down here as well. Not too bad. I mean, nothing compared to Costa Rica, but it's dry.
So 20 minutes to go now. 5 points lead for Glasgow.
I'd like to see if Glasgow can hold on to this. For all my moaning about Glasgow on today's show, if they win this, I believe because they've won a bonus point, they'll go joint second in the League Ulster, I believe. Yeah. There's that little bit of magic.
Yeah, beautiful. Oh, lovely.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Not bad at all, is it?
No. I mean, Kyle Steyn was one of these people where 2-3 years ago you'd say you didn't play for Scotland again, and he was a bang average player. But this season, he's just upped his game to another level. Like some players, they're late bloomers, and I think he's definitely one of them.
Lovely offload from Tupelotu as well there. Bit lucky with the kick, but you've got to go, there you go. And he follows it up and scores.
He's shown what it's worth. I mean, I think Chris Harris is nailed on at centre for Scotland.
Yeah.
I'd like to see who Townsend puts there. I think the 12 shirt's up for grabs. Tulopu could do it. Kyle Steyn. If he sticks with Sam Johnson. It's going to be interesting to see who he picks.
I think he'll go for Johnson and Harris, but having someone like a Tupelotu who can come off the bench and just offer something a bit different is similar to us with Halaholo. Very similar style of players who have a brilliant step, great offloading game, very, obviously originally from the Samoa Pacific Nations region, and they love to have that flair about them. So, and then Kyle Steyn, can play on the wing, probably can play in the centre, could probably do a job at fullback. Yeah,
he can play all across that back line. He's got so much versatility to him. I think he's just signed a contract extension with Glasgow as well, actually. He's a good player. I'd like to think now that Glasgow should have this game sewn up.
Yeah.
If they get within range, get penalty, maybe kick it over for another 3. Because once you go to that 15-point mark, it's quite hard to come back from that, especially with how much time's left in the game now.
Yeah, definitely.
Connacht's a man down, but if they're going to get back into it, they need a response, and they need a response soon.
They do indeed. 15 minutes to go in this one. Freddie Clark. Freddie, hope you're doing well. Haven't seen you in the chat for a while, mate. Hope things are good. Red Park at 12. Would you... Again, he played yesterday, didn't he?
He played well yesterday as well.
All that much rugby in the last, 18 months, would we say? Something like that? How long is it? No, didn't he get injured in that England game?
Yeah, and he's come back to playing it again.
Yeah, so nearly a year out. Do you think it's too soon for him to be starting? Or do you think, ease him into it as this tournament goes?
I'm gonna have to go with Gregor Townsend's judgment on this. I mean, when Cammy Redpath got picked to have his debut against England last year, I thought it was a horrible, horrible idea. I expected him to come in maybe off the bench or maybe start the Italy game. But I was like, against England, the opening game, I was like, why? What? I was raging at it. So if he comes back and he plays as good as he did on his debut, who am I to say otherwise? I mean, it'll be a big risk. It'll definitely be a big risk. But I don't know. I'd have to see how he trains. Like, if there is any Bath fans who happen to be watching along, let me know. I think he's played 2 or 3 games now. He's come back. Yeah. I think he's even played at 10-1 as well.
Oh wow! Okay.
But so yeah, I'd really like to see how he's doing. I have no idea. I can see the appeal of putting him at 12, but I put Tuilopu at 12 myself. I think he's been better than Sam Johnson this season. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see who he picks.
Yeah, it is. Only a week to go as well. I mean, it's really exciting times, and yeah, one of my favourite times of the year now as we build up towards it. Oh, lovely step there.
Oh yeah.
Down. So 13 minutes to go now.
Yep.
Would you be looking to change the game plan at all? Would the message from Danny Wilson be anything different? Would there be about game management, or do you think another try is what's needed?
If they can shut the door now and not let them through, I think Glasgow only need another penalty, realistically, to see this out. I think they're going to want to, if they can get their hands on the ball, play as much of the game as they possibly can in the opposition's half.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to sit back. They're going to want to put the pressure on, frustrate the opposition. Connacht back to 15 men. They seem to have the bit between their teeth now. Connacht. It's just can they do it?
It's all about the next score, isn't it? If Glasgow, as I say, just even get a penalty, that's probably game over. If Connacht can get a try and convert it, then it makes it really interesting heading into the final few minutes. So
the pudding, what a steal! I don't see him doing that often.
And dancing away from the defender as well somehow.
Oh, I know. He's not done that since the 2015 World Cup against Australia.
We won't mention that too much with the referee running off.
No, that was a painful day. What a kick! I still get nightmares about that. What could have been.
Yeah. Beautiful kick there. Talking about the World Cup, an interesting discussion that I had with an England fan the day before was, how much do you think it's important to win the Six Nations in comparison with building towards the World Cup? We're only 18 months away now, so it's not long to go. It's in France. Scotland, this is probably your best team since you last won the Six Nations in
1999.
Yeah, 99 with Hastings
generation easily.
And all of them. So it's an exceptional side. Do you think this squad, one, is settled now that this is a squad that's going to go, or do you think there is any space for people to come in and potentially be involved in this squad heading towards the World Cup?
I would be surprised if he brings in too many more players now. I'm sorry, I'm just sorting out my my wire here, but I think Gregor came out and said for the Autumn Internationals he had one eye on the World Cup. The year before, I don't think he's going to add too many more players to it. He may still go shopping like he always does and poach a couple of players. Andy Christie might get a game or two, but they might not feature anyone that gets recruited from next year now. I think there'll be players they'll be eyeing up for the World Cup after. I think Gregor Townsend's probably got about 85% of his team for the World Cup nailed on now. I can't imagine there'll be too many extras. For some teams, winning the Six Nations wouldn't be hugely important for a team like Scotland if they want to be serious and give the World Cup a go. For them, I think they need to win a Six Nations before the World Cup because they've not won anything in a long time, and you can't expect Scotland to say, "Oh, we'll challenge for a World Cup" if they've not challenged for a Six Nations.
Yeah, very true.
So I think for Wales and England, probably not. I think France, it's been a while since they've done it. France might want to win a Six Nations before a World Cup, especially since they're hosting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a look at like France, the way they've done it over the last few years, their under-20 team, very, very successful. They've brought them through the likes of Marc Dupont and others, and they've stuck with those youth. And now we're really beginning to see the fruit of their labour coming through and seeing these youngsters, as I said, such as Dupont and Marc, and the best in the world. They have clearly been building towards the World Cup, where here in Wales, and particularly I think in England, there's a lot of focus on winning silverware now, winning the Autumn Nations Series or winning the Six Nations, where actually maybe the goal should be always aim for a World Cup. And I think that's what you see with coaches. I mean, lots of people aren't sold on Pivac. I'm probably one of them, not completely sold on him. But there isn't going to be a managerial change, a coaching change, before World Cup now. It's too late. There's no point bringing anyone in because he's just not got enough time to bring the players he wants to bring in and to develop his style. So
it's very true. And I mean, like, if Pivac went, who would you replace him with? And how much of it is Pivac's fault, and how much of it is he's doing the best with the players that he's got at his disposal? I mean, I know he's had a couple of bad performances in the autumn and that, but to sack a manager that's just won a Six Nations, I think is very, very harsh.
Yeah.
I can see why people aren't happy with them, but you have to be. I think that some fans have to be realistic. Wales have just seen, I think it was the year before the last World Cup, they had, I'd say, arguably their best squad of the generation. That was their biggest chance to win a World Cup. They're winning Six Nations still. They're competing at the highest level, and sometimes, and some people are arguing, they've got no right to. So personally, I think Pivac's doing the best with what he's got. I know you'll watch more than mine. I think he does have to identify a style, something he likes. He changes. I think I've expressed my frustration at Scotland playing when they play opposition they deem as better than themselves, trying to play a game plan to stop their game plan instead of just saying, no, this is the way we play. It's their job to stop us.
Similar to the way against South Africa, wasn't it, in the autumn? That's what we felt happened, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Scotland tried to play to suit the South African game plan instead of sticking to what they were good at. And I think Pivac has to cement in stone his template. What's the way that, how does a Pivac Wales team play? And if he gets that down, I think a lot of fans can be realistic when they see the likes like Alan Jones bow out. I mean, I'd be very surprised if he features for the Six Nations this year. I know there's talk of a comeback, but I'd be very surprised. I mean, personally, once I saw him go out with injury, I thought to myself, that's probably going to be the last time you'll see him pull on a Wales shirt ever again. And once, these new players like Beard starts to come through, I know he is there now and he starts to get better and better and better, not that handful of others. It's time for a new generation to shine and build, and they have to build on their new game plan, not the game plan of those that went before them.
I agree. I think Glasgow do have a penalty here, which will probably wrap up the game if Duncan Weir can slot it over. I think the thing with Pivac, the frustration with him, as you said, is the style of play, is the identity of the team. Duncan Weir has slotted that one through. So Glasgow leading now by 15 points. You would think that is enough to win the game. And of course, they've already secured the bonus point. But Pivac, I think, he came in that Six Nations after Gatland, tried to play a style of rugby, which just clearly didn't work for the team, because the team had been playing a set style for 10 plus years in the Gatland, had been massively successful. And yet you're all of a sudden having a coach coming in who wants to play a completely different style. And yet it just didn't click. We played the Irish away at the Aviva in the first game. And I just remember our defensive patterns were all over the place. I remember Stockdale had half the field to play with. The players just clearly hadn't clicked with it. And I don't know. I then felt like Pivac maybe panicked a little bit and thought, all right, pressure's on me now. And at that point, it'd been unlikely to sack him, but it could have worked because you could have got someone in, given them enough time, because that was about 2 years ago now. But they didn't, and they've stuck with him. And yet he seems to be very conflicted between trying to play his style, which works so well at the Scarlets, and yet trying not to lose and trying to stay in the good books of people.
Yeah.
So it seems like he's stuck in the middle.
I mean, on that, you have to remember when Pivac went into the Scarlets, it took him about 3 seasons to really get going. And it'll probably be the same with Wales. It'll take him a couple of years to get going. Gatland, and this is my very unpopular opinion, I think for Welsh fans, it was probably good that you went at the time we did. After watching him on the Last Lions tour, I think the Gatland Bowl, the game's evolved past that now. If he went into, let's just say, in a hypothetical world where Gatland's still in charge, if he tried to play Gatland Bowl in this year's Six Nations, I don't think it'd go very well at all. You'd really, really struggle. I think the tactics that he used were great for the time, but it's evolved past that now. And Pivac, I think he will get there, but it might be another season or two before you really start to see it, come out the woodwork. You'll see the Pivac mold come out, and you might see the way that Wales want to play, and they'll form their identity, whether it be slow and strategic like the way Ireland used to play it. It could be fast and loose like the Scots or the French, a bit in the middle. You're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, as I said before, there's going to be no change between now and the World Cup. I'm really fascinated to see what the game plan is going to be. We've probably got the second toughest game of the Six Nations up first. We're heading over to the Aviva, which is probably actually our toughest game, considering that we got France at home. But it's going to be fascinating to see what he decides to do, how he decides to approach it, and selection as well, and what can we read into that. I mean, Dan Biggin named as captain is interesting, but I'm going to do a separate preview on Wales and hopefully dive more in depth on that. About 3 minutes or so to go in this one. Glasgow have probably won the game by now, 35 points to 20. How would you rate this performance from Glasgow? You've been impressed by them?
Yeah, I mean, they're still showing some of their defensive fragilities. I think they probably could have won it by a better margin than what they did. But look, I can't complain. They've won away to an Irish side with a bonus point victory. They've won it 15 points clear. I said at the start of the game I thought it was going to be 8. Yeah. So I see that Kalupo is man of the match, which is fantastic going into the Six Nations. I think he's been fantastic. Glasgow will be happy to joint second now in the URC Ulster. Yeah. Well, probably not for long. I think Leinster can probably leapfrog them after today. But yeah, I thought they've played really, really well. Connacht are no pushovers. They're probably harder than some of the teams they've played. If they can play like this against Munster and Leinster, my camera's gone there. Against Munster and Leinster, I think that they'd be in for a really good shout.
Yeah, I agree. I think you look at this game. I mean, look, Glasgow should have won anyway. We kind of accepted that. You're looking at the two teams, looking at how they are both set up and who was playing. But again, a lot of teams have games in hand, but all you can do is at this level is ensure that you just win your games. You play your games and you win them. And that's all that you can do is focus on ensuring that you manage to do that. If you have a game in hand, just play it, win it, and you work on from there, and then you worry about other teams worrying about themselves. About a minute to go now, a line out to Connacht on the 10-metre line. And then Glasgow steal the line out. Chance for a late flourish here, maybe? Can we get a late
just put the polish on it. I mean, some of these youngsters coming through from Glasgow look really, really good. Oh, it's beautiful. Like they're playing some fantastic stuff. Some of the youngsters, I'd like to see them get rid of some of the discipline issues. That's the only thing that holds Glasgow back. I mean, if they can sort that out, they can compete with the best in the league. Like on their day, if they get rid of all their silly penalties that give away, I think they can give Leinster a run for their money. Maybe not consistently, but on a one-off day, yeah. They're in a
really
good place.
Good work there, though, from Glasgow, and playing with a bit of swagger now. So last chance here, a line out, 5 metres out. Do you think they're going to go for a driving maul by any chance?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it seems to work so well. Glasgow are like, well, they're your stereotypical Scottish side, big, strong, powerful. And, that's them gone over for their bonus point try. Well, no, yet another try, sorry.
5th try, 6th try, is that?
I don't see who got it down, but who was that?
10, I think.
It is another try. Who's the man who's got it? It's not Duncan Weir, is it?
No, don't tell. They're put in with a driving maul. It's not.
I saw him rise up from the bottom of it, so I don't think it's him.
No, it's not. No, it wasn't. I don't know. I don't know who it was, but I know it wasn't him. Someone in the comments, if you got a better view than I did, let me know who got that down.
I think it's Johnny Matthews, the replacement forward. I think it's Johnny Matthews who's got it. I think so, yeah. So Connacht putting, Glasgow putting the shine on this performance. 42 points to 20 now. Chance to make that 44 points to 20. Yeah, if you had to pick one player who stood out today, what player would you be picking?
Oh, so many. I mean, Sione, I think he deserves man of the match. Kyle Steyn played very, very good. Rufus McLean was fantastic. I think Fraser Brown had a really good game as well. Richie Gray, after his yellow card, pulled it back. I'm glad he did. He really turned up second half. I'd say Rufus McLean or Fraser Brown if I was to give an alternative man of the match. But no, I'm very happy with Tulupo. He was so good today and deserves his man of the match. If I was the Scotland coach, going from what I'd see, I think he deserves to start a start for Scotland against England. I think he's got that power. I think of that back line. Price offloads it to Duhan van der Merwe, and he's got Finn Russell, Hogg, and Tulupo on his outside to go to. It's like it's actually hard to stop. So physical, so good, so strong. Great win. I'm looking forward to the next game. Who's Edinburgh Ospreys next?
Yeah.
I've got Edinburgh probably to do it, but you never know.
I'm going to agree with you on that one, but we are going to leave it there, folks. I'm going to be taking a bit of a break, but I'm going to be back later for Leinster against Cardiff live from 7:25. There's a link in the chat somewhere. But once this stream ends, it'll load into that one. Dan, always a pleasure, mate. Thank you for jumping on.
Yeah, it was an experience.
Our preview is out tomorrow for Scotland, going in depth on Scotland. So if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe. Ready for that. And of course, check out Stuck in the Scrum. There's a link in the chat somewhere. Where did I put it? Let me get it up.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. We're always a lot busier when the Six Nations are on. We're always looking for new people, always looking for new admins as well. So I'm on the page as much as I can. Sometimes I feel like I can't give it as much love as I'd like to. So look, if you like rugby and you like talking to other people about it, there's always discussions, always polls going on there. There's always what ifs up about. There's always links to Brandon's stuff and a couple other people as well. So yeah, come check it out if you like it. If I get round to it, I have been toying with the idea of starting my own channel as well, if there is an appetite for it. But yeah, no, check it out. Brandon, thank you very much for having me on. It was, like I say, it was an experience.
No, it's always good to have you on. Always good.
And I'm sure we'll do it again at some point.
I'm sure we will. We're going to leave it there, though. Thank you very much for watching, folks. And I will see you later for Cardiff against Leinster, because it's at the